Let's call to order the City Council meeting for the City of Highland Park, Illinois, September 9th, 2024. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Bruckman.
Present.
Councilmember Ross.
Present.
Councilmember Tapia.
Present.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Here.
Councilmember Stone. Here. Councilmember Bloomberg. Mayor Rotering.
Here, we have quorum. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular City Council meeting held August 26, 2024?
So moved.
I think it's, I'll second it as amended.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those minutes are approved. May I have a motion to approve the warrant list?
Second.
Any comments or questions on the warrant list? Hearing none, will the clerk please call that vote?
Councilmember Bruckman. Aye. Councilmember Ross. Aye. Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 6 ayes, no nays. The warrant list is approved. The next item on our agenda is report of the mayor. But before,
Sorry, I think there were two sets of minutes. One was for closed.
these both say regular city council meeting. Are they both the same, or are they?
No, there is closed session as well.
Okay, beg your pardon. So may I have approval of the minutes of the closed session from city council on August 26, 2024?
I move to approve as amended.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks for catching that. Appreciate it. Under the report of the mayor, I have some comments I'd like to share, and then we'll get to our proclamations. At every city council meeting since the heinous terrorist attacks on Israeli and other civilians in Israel on October 7th, 2023, we've paused to remember the hundreds of people of all ages and multiple nationalities who were taken hostage and continue to be held against their will in Gaza. We've also shared our continued support for their loved ones in Israel, around the world, and most especially here in Highland Park. Last week, we were heartbroken by the news that 6 hostages had been killed by terrorists, including Hirsch Goldberg Poland, whose family here in Highland Park, in Chicago, and in Israel tirelessly called for his immediate release for 330 painful, anxious days. Heartbreak, pain, despair are all words that describe what so many in our community are feeling. We feel helpless, but as a community that has always supported one another in times of tragedy or need, we're called upon now to be supportive of our friends and neighbors during this time of incredible grief. I ask everyone to join us in a moment of silence in honor of Hirsch Goldberg Poland, Ori Danino, Almang Sarusi, Carmel Gatt, Alex Lobanov, and Eden Yerushalmi, as well as Itai Seif, who we will hear about in a moment, and all whose lives were taken in the October 7th attacks and since. Please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. May their memories be for a blessing. We have no appointments this evening. We do have 2 proclamations this evening. Excuse me. Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated annually from September 15 to October 15. It's an opportunity to recognize the many contributions of our Latino, Latina, Latinx community members and the richness they bring to Highland Park and our nation. Following my reading of the proclamation, I'm welcoming Moraine Township Trustee Pablo Alvarez, who also leads the Latino Community Advisory Committee, to accept the proclamation and share a few words. So I'll now read the proclamation. Whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated in the United States from September 15 to October 15, the observance was first introduced in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Johnson, and was expanded by President Reagan in 1988 to cover a 30-day period. And whereas the Hispanic community accounted for half of the nation's population growth in the past decade, and whereas by the year 2050, it's expected that 30% of our nation will be of Hispanic descent, and whereas the Hispanic community represents a diverse multiracial mosaic, and whereas in honor of National Hispanic Heritage Month, the City of Highland Park is pleased to celebrate the Hispanic and Latino, Latina, Latinx community throughout our city. And whereas Hispanic Heritage Month celebrates the history, traditions, and cultures of the Hispanic and Latino, Latina, Latinx residents in Highland Park. We admire the invaluable ways they contribute to our city by bringing rich diversity, contributions, and growth to our community. And whereas we commemorate this month by recognizing and dedicating ourselves to working together to address the challenges that still face our Hispanic and Latino, Latina, Latinx population. And whereas during National Hispanic Heritage Month, we reaffirm that diversity and inclusion are two of our community's greatest strengths. Now, therefore, I, Nancy Rotary, Mayor of the City of Highland Park, and the City Council of the City of Highland Park, do hereby proclaim September 15 through October 15, 2024, as Hispanic Heritage Month, and encourage each resident to recognize and celebrate our Hispanic and Latino community. Welcome, Trustee Alvarez.
Good evening, Mayor, and thank you. Thank you and the council for beautiful proclamation that honors the residents of Highland Park. And I'm going to say Highwood, and because we're all one community.
Right.
And it's a pleasure to work with our community. And I can't thank you and the council enough for those beautiful words. I want to share that our community is one that thrives. Working also at Highland Park High School as a counselor and really involved with our students, with our parents, many times navigate this community invisibly or in shadows. And I can't share enough how much joy this month brings, because our Latino, Latinx, Latinx culture is celebrated, which not only is a sense of pride, but also an opportunity for others to learn about the richness, to learn about the diversity, to learn about the music, to learn about the culture, which I think we all benefit from. Thank you so much. Muchas
Thank you.
gracias.
Read these. Sure. Councilmember Tapia?
Yeah, as a member of the Latino community within this wonderful community of Highland Park, you know, Latinos represent 10% of Highland Park, which is 3,000 people. If you combine with the Latinos of Highwood, which are part of our school district, which represents 25% of our school district, for over 7,000 Latinos in this, our community and our neighborhood. So to honor the Latino community is to not only see our community, but respect and honor, and really honored to have that proclamation done on behalf of the city by you, Mayor.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for those comments. And thank you, Trustee Alvarez, for joining us this evening and highlighting the exceptional community engagement efforts of Moraine Township's Latino Advisory Committee. I encourage everyone to visit morainetownship.org to learn more about this group, and also encourage everyone to visit cityhpil.com to view more information about ways to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month in Highland Park, including a number of exciting programs at the Highland Park Library. And so with that, I will now talk about Banned Books. Banned Books Week was launched in 1982 in response to a surge in the number of challenges to books in libraries, schools, and bookstores. Banned Books Week brings together librarians, booksellers, publishers, journalists, and readers of all ages to celebrate the freedom to read. I'm proud that last year, the state of Illinois was the first state in the nation to adopt statewide legislation that protects the freedom of libraries to acquire materials without external limitations. I'll now read the proclamation. Whereas the role of libraries is to collect and make available diverse works and information reflective of many perspectives and lived experiences. And whereas Highland Park Public Library, the library, a component unit of the City of Highland Park, is committed to providing open access and allowing free inquiry without the approval of or advocacy for any topic or particular opinion. And whereas the library adheres to the American Library Association's longstanding freedom to read statement and freedom to view statement. And whereas there have been renewed organized efforts to censor programs and remove materials from schools and public libraries across the country, with the highest number of challenge book titles ever documented in 2023. And whereas these challenge programs and materials are often elevating the voices and viewpoints of historically marginalized peoples. And whereas efforts to provide equitable and diverse programs and materials have, in some communities, been met with hate speech, protests, and threats. And whereas the library has a material selection policy process that is fair, deliberative, equitable, and accessible to the public, that is executed by trained professionals. Now therefore, I, Nancy Rotary, Mayor of the City of Highland Park, do hereby proclaim September 22nd to 28th, 2024 as Banned Books Week, and urge all residents to read challenged books and stand in solidarity with public libraries as they face renewed and unprecedented efforts to limit access to books and resources. And so with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Highland Park Public Library Executive Director Heidi Smith to accept the proclamation and to share a few words.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I want to thank you and the council for recognizing Banned Books Week, this annual affirmation of our freedom to read. Through Banned Books Week, we support the freedom to seek ideas, even those some consider unorthodox or unpopular. It is the library's purpose to provide access to diverse works reflective of many perspectives so that each of us may decide for ourselves what we think and participate in our democracy as informed citizens. By focusing on efforts across the country to remove or restrict access to books, Banned Books Week draws national attention to the harms of censorship. To learn more, please join us in the library auditorium for a screening of the ABCs of Book Banning, an Academy Award-nominated short documentary, on Monday, September 23rd at 7 p.m. Following the screening, I will be there to answer questions from the public library perspective. Before and after the film screening, drop by to make an I Read Banned Books button in the main floor lobby. That week, the library will also have book displays of books that have been banned at other libraries in the US and other resources about censorship. You can find more information via the library's website at hplibrary.org and the American Library Association's website at bannedbooksweek.org. September is also National Library Card Sign-Up Month, so if you don't have your library card, no worries, stop by and we'll get you set up. Thank you so much. Thank you.
A few more items under report of the mayor. I'm pleased to welcome 2 community reports under other business tonight, beginning with Moraine Township Supervisor Ann Flanagan-Bassey, who joins us this evening to provide an informational presentation on a ballot measure proposed by the township.
Good evening. Nice to see you all. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me time on your busy agenda. It's always a pleasure to see you guys. I'm here tonight for an informational purposes only and not to advocate. But as community leaders, I wanted to make sure you're aware of a proposal by Moraine Township to establish a community mental health board so that if residents have questions or ask you about it, you know where to direct them to get more information to answer their questions so that the residents of the township can decide if creating a community mental health board here in Moraine Township is appropriate for our community. Got some FAQs, hello, and these FAQs are on the township website in English and in Spanish. So if residents have questions that are not answered by these FAQs, we encourage them to call the township 847, let's see, I bet I have a slide here. Wait, nope. I'm missing a slide. Well, oh well, say la vie. Call the township at 847-432-3240 or email info@morainetownship.org and we'll answer any questions that are not answered by the FAQs. While I do have these slides, to be respectful of your time, I promise not to read the slides, but simply highlight some of the salient points to help put together information about what a community health board is and what it does. If approved by the voters, Moraine Township will establish a community mental health board for the purpose of funding increased resources for mental health services and prevention, substance abuse disorder services and prevention, or services for residents with intellectual or developmental disabilities. That is all this board can address. Community health boards were created by the Illinois legislature in the 1960s, and currently there are almost 100 community health boards here in Illinois. Let's see, there are several slides with information on national and local data for mental health, substance use disorder, and current needs for IDD residents. I won't read the slides, but I'm happy to meet with you or anyone else if they have questions on any of this data. So there, see, I just went through 3. How does a community health board work? A community health board is not, I repeat, not a new unit of government. It is Illinois statute covers all aspects of setting up, funding, and organizing community health boards. The board is comprised of 7 to 9 Moraine Township residents and can, and I believe should, include a youth representative. Board members are appointed by the township supervisor to bring various experience and expertise to the discussion. They must live in the township, and they are not compensated. 1 trustee from the township can serve on the board. The board commissions or performs needs assessments to identify gaps between needs and resources, and develops 1- and 3-year plans to determine how additional resources provided by the referendum question on the ballot November 5th can best be used to get the greatest impact for township residents working with existing or new partners. They can provide grants to agencies providing services. They can help with individual provider payments or co-pays, transportation to access services, and a wide variety of uses to address needs as outlined by state statute. The Community Health Board then develops a budget which is approved by the Township Board. Let's see, where was I? How does the Community Health Board work? I think we're missing some slides. I think I double-sided them, and doesn't matter. How is the Community Health Board funded? On the November ballot, voters will be asked if Moraine Township should levy an additional tax of 0.03% to provide additional resources to fund prevention and services for Moraine Township residents needing mental health, substance use disorder, or services for intellectual or developmental disabilities. 0.03% equates to less than $10 on a $100,000 house. Do the math. $300,000 house, $30 a year. $500,000 house, $50 a year. How can these funds be used? Let's see, are we going to get that one? Yes. The Illinois statute delineates how the funds can be used. There's a slide on if the referendum is approved. Permitted uses, again, include grant funding to agencies providing services, additional days for a clinician at the HPHS drop-in center, help with treatment costs, co-pays, transportation, et cetera. Let's see, do we have this? Yeah. What is the relationship between the Community Mental Health Board and the Township Board? While it's not a separate unit of government, it is independent from the Township Board and brings expertise to the 3 areas it's allowed to address. The relationship between the Township Board and the Community Mental Health Board is limited to the Township Board. If voters approve this levy on November 5th, then the Township Board would include that levy with its own levy when it submits it to the clerk every fall. The Township Board appoints the members of the board. The Township Board approves the budget and receives an annual report from the board on what it did and the impact it made. And that is the extent of the relationship. What will voters see on the ballot? The last slide. which I guess we've deliberately made not readable, is what voters will see on November ballot. This is required statutory language, and admittedly not, it's very confusing, which is why we're trying to get the word out as much as possible to help voters understand when they see this question, what it means. And then lastly, Moraine Township. Township bound, there's only one township in Lake County whose boundaries are contiguous with a city boundary, and that's Zion. Other than that, while it may look like somebody who drew boundaries for townships had their eyes closed, actually, the boundaries for townships were established back in the 1800s, and then municipalities and annexed unincorporated areas, formerly unincorporated areas. So Moraine Township is all of Highwood, about 2/3 or more of Highland Park, but not the western side. A little sliver of Deerfield, Kings Cove, and a little sliver of Southeast Lake Forest. So if this were to pass, the tax would only be levied on Moraine Township, but Moraine Township residents would be the only residents allowed to access these services from the Community Health Board. Any questions?
I actually have a couple, because I've heard from a few people, and they're wondering, and maybe you touched on this and I missed it, but is there an annual report from the board, and how are the board members held accountable? If they're not elected by the voters, they're appointed, who appoints them, and how is that
The
board?
township supervisor with the
Appoints
advice and consent of the council.
Of the Board of Trustees, okay. And is there an annual report?
There is an annual report, and that's one of the 4 things that the township board and the township board receives, an annual report. One township trustee is on the board. The boards have staggered terms and are appointed based on trying to get the most diverse experience, age demographics, cultural demographics as possible, with expertise in these areas to bring all voices to the table.
And so does this board then dispense grants to agencies that provide the services, or do they pay providers directly?
They can do all of the above.
Okay.
They will do a needs assessment that, as a matter of fact, it's ongoing now, to figure out where the gaps are in services so that they can most impactfully use these funds.
And so is it mainly driven by an income threshold for people who are underserved, or how is it decided who gets their mental health care covered?
The board will decide if, will establish guidelines. If there are to be some kind of co-pays or help for uninsured people, what the income thresholds would be, and then applications would determine if a resident meets those thresholds. But that will be up to the board.
And are the board's meetings open to the public?
Absolutely. And public, I think, is welcome and probably has valuable input for this board if it is established.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Councilmember Ross?
And conveniently,
Hello.
Pablo is in the audience, and he's president of the board of Jocelyn, which provides mental health services. And I'm wondering where the overlap is. Mental health board, how does that work with the existing providers of mental health?
Well, the board would work with existing and new partners and would open up to all social service agencies that are providing services to residents. Not just exclusive to any agency.
I guess Pablo is a trustee, so you're kind of coordinating in any way, or you can't?
But he would not be on the, he would not necessarily be the trustee appointed to the mental health board.
Okay.
So he, I mean, I can't speak to something that doesn't exist right now, but it would be considered.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay.
Thank
Great.
you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks for coming by, Ann.
Really appreciate your time. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And this item will be on the ballot in November, so voters will have the opportunity to make their voices heard in either direction on this item. Next, we're pleased to welcome Dr. Mark Nolan Hill, who will share an update on behalf of the Lake County Honor Flight. Welcome, Dr. Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I am Dr. Mark Hill, a Navy veteran, and I was honored and privileged to be selected to be the medical guardian for the 117th honor flight from Chicago to Washington, D.C. of World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam War veterans. There were 118, which was the largest group thus far. I'd like to acknowledge here today Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Brian Danilowitz, Navy Lieutenant Commander Dr. Jeff Damaski, and Marine Lieutenant Colonel Bill Siskis, all of whom have been involved in the honor flight in one way or the other. Thank you, gentlemen. They're all way above my pay grade. And thank you, Mayor Rotarin, for allowing me to do this presentation. My late father, uncles, cousins, my wife, Carol Sue's father, uncles, and my late partner, Dr. Irving F. Stein Jr., were all veterans. And thank you, Carl, for your service in Vietnam in the Army. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. Korea. I'm embarrassed to tell you, as I thought that the honor flight was just a very polished tour of Washington, D.C. memorials, but it's much more than that. I was overwhelmed by the outpouring of thanks from groups and organizations and the public. Honor flights began in 2008. Thousands have gone, 1,500 man-hours per flight, and the number of personnel required to do an honor flight, one honor flight, is in the hundreds. And I apologize in advance for many slides. I'm too passionate, like showing pictures of my grandkids, but in the interest of time, I will fly through them. This is my medical team of 13 nurses. We all had full medical supplies carried everywhere in knapsacks. Every team, medical, veterans, guardians, etc., had different color polo shirts. Every veteran had a guardian, and all used wheelchairs, even if they didn't need wheelchairs, for safety. And we called them chairs with wheels because there was some sensitivity to the term wheelchairs. At Midway Airport, arrival. This is the president and CEO of the honor flight, John Patau. This is my favorite veteran, Vietnam Army captain, head of a MASH unit, and a surgeon, and also was my professor when I was in medical school at Northwestern in the 70s. This is the first time I've ever seen him smile. I was guardian to this Vietnam veteran, Army veteran, from Beecher, Illinois. And these are some of the veterans on my bus. There were 7 buses, honor guard behind us. This is Wayne Mesmer, who sings the anthems and such at the sports, Chicago sports, and he sang an anthem. This is the honor guard getting on the plane. And this is all the veterans on the plane. And we were delighted that to and fro, from Midway to Dulles and Dulles to Midway, there was a firefighter water cannon. And I wish I could show this, but it was remarkable. These are the firefighters welcoming us at Dulles. This is a band welcoming us at Dulles. There were multiple honor guards. These were the public thanking us and welcoming the veterans. And these were some children from Korea who were visiting Washington, D.C., and wanted to be part of the process of the honor flight, and that's my head nurse next to them. This is the honor guard on our leaving Dulles Airport to the memorials. Now, they closed all the highways for us and gave us a police motorcycle escort. There were 7 buses. Sorry, pressed the wrong one. This impersonator, I'm sure you recognize, this was at World War II Memorial. This is the World War II Memorial. And that is a picture of the honor guard presentation, and behind them are all the veterans on the flight. And it was really remarkable. I apologize for this picture. I saw Forrest Gump, and I always wondered, well, no, I always wondered where this was in Washington, D.C. So now you know it's at the World War II Memorial. This is the Vietnam Memorial. This is the wall, very meaningful. Another picture. This is us coming back to Dulles Airport, thanking us for the service. And this was coming back to Midway, which was absolutely remarkable in terms of the number of people. There were a number of sailors from Great Lakes, and I'm very biased being Navy, and of course, Jeff, you're the same way. And I never saluted so much in my life. And this, I'm sorry, it's out of order. This is the Korean War Memorial. And they treated the veterans unbelievably, returning to Midway, welcoming, as you can see. And it was just phenomenal. Now, this is the DAR, Daughters of the American Revolution. My wife, Carol Sue, is an officer of DAR, and these are the DAR nurses, and actually some of them I actually worked with some years ago in the operating room. Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, bagpipes, band, and finally, look at this, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people at Midway thanking and welcoming the veterans. And finally, as a surprise to the veterans, on our flight from Dulles back to Midway, we did a surprise mail call, meaning many volunteers and DAR volunteers wrote personalized letters to all the veterans on the plane. We passed it out, and they were absolutely overwhelmed. Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to present this.
What a great. Thank you so much, Dr. Hill, for spotlighting the excellent work of the Lake County Honor Flight and celebrating the Lake County veterans. That was really, really great. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us, gentlemen, and Carol Sue. Thank you. Okay, our next item is listed under business from the council. I'll just share with you that the city has 18 advisory groups, boards, and commissions composed of well over 100 dedicated volunteers. And over the next few weeks, we're going to be welcoming the chairs of these groups to provide reports on their work. Tonight, we're hearing from representatives of the Highland Park Sister Cities Foundation, the Plan and Design Commission, and the Sustainability Advisory Group. So first, please join me in welcoming Highland Park Sister Cities Foundation Chair Carol Wolf to the podium.
Hello, everyone. Council?
Hello.
So, good evening.
I'm here to speak on behalf of the Highland Park Sister Cities Foundation. Highland Park has 3 active sister city relationships: Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, Modena, Italy, and Yeroham, Israel. I'm proud to share that for the 5th time, actually every time we've applied, Highland Park has won Sister City International's award for Best Overall Program for cities up to 100,000 people. Sister Cities International was founded by President Eisenhower in 1956 to promote people-to-people connections, to make the world a safer place. It's the national organization that unites tens of thousands of volunteers and citizen diplomats with over 2,000 partnerships in more than 140 countries, and we've won Best Overall Program 5 times.
Excellent.
Pretty amazing. Some highlights of our award-winning year. We brought tenor Gianni Coletta from Modena to conduct workshops at Focus on the Arts. Gianni also performed at a local school for children with special needs as a part of Ravinia's Reach, Teach, Play program, and he performed a free concert at our library. We partnered with the Puerto Vallarta Sister Cities Committee and the City of Puerto Vallarta on their 5th annual Mango Festival. The objective of this event is to raise money to build the Puerto Vallarta Highland Park Sister Cities House of Culture in an underserved community, which will service an entire area of Puerto Vallarta. It's pretty cool that Highland Park Cultural Center will be in Puerto Vallarta. We hosted a delegation from Puerto Vallarta, and among the visitors were architects, engineers, and teachers. And we connected our guests with their counterparts in our community to share ideas. Many people on the board were present at that event. We also had a delegation of our student ambassadors, a program that we initiated in 2023. Every year, we host a spaghetti dinner for Corazon de Niña, and that's a home in Puerto Vallarta. It's a residential facility for boys and girls who live in abusive home situations, and it is dedicated to empowering children through education. So that's what we did this year as far as programs. But in each of our sister cities, in Puerto Vallarta, we continue to support art programs and Taekwondo classes for children in underserved communities. We continue to support adult literacy classes, and this year, our literacy program extended to children and young adults who, for whatever reason, have not had access to education. We provided humanitarian relief to the elderly and disabled who lost everything during Hurricane Lydia. In Yeroham, Israel, we were planning a music exchange this year, but then tragedy struck on October 7th, and we shifted our focus from the music exchange to humanitarian relief. Our small sister city in the Negev Desert embraced over 700 people who fled their homes along the Gaza border. We raised funds to purchase beds for the elderly who had been sleeping on floors, space heaters, the winter was pretty cold, microwave ovens, food and medicine, and baby formula. We raised over $12,000 in a very short period of time from our community, friends, family, and 100% of the money went immediately and completely to the people in Yeroham. In Modena, we continue to support Actia, which is an organization that provides master classes and competitions for aspiring young opera singers from around the world. In addition to our international programs, we are a part of the fabric of Highland Park. We participate in community events such as the Day of the Child, National Night Out, and the Day of the Dead, which is a Mexican holiday celebrating ancestors. Our foundation maintains the Pierce Garden, which we planted in Sister Cities Park in the center of town to honor the memory of our founder, Mayor Dan Pierce. And we've done so much more. My husband said, we didn't talk about the Day of Beauty, the Cancer Support Day of Beauty that originated in Highland Park, and we had over 20 salons in Puerto Vallarta participating, and we also had salons in Italy. So we're constantly supporting efforts in Highland Park and bringing programs to Highland Park. So we are so grateful to you, Mayor Rodering, to you, city council members, and we appreciate the wise counsel and advocacy of our liaison, Andre Tapia, and Councilwoman Annette Lidauer, who comes to everything we do and is always supporting us as well. And tonight, I want to tell you about 2 upcoming events. So Mayor Rotary mentioned Itai Sif. Itai came to Highland Park from Yeroham as a part of our youth robotics program. And he worked with kids here in Highland Park from Highland Park High School, and their combined Yeroham team and Highland Park team actually won the regional championship, which was held at Lane Tech High School. Itai made really strong relationships in the community. Itai was killed in northern Gaza. His obituary read, Captain Itai Sif, 24, a gentle, calm young man who studied robotics and wanted nothing but gave fully of himself, was killed by an explosive device in northern Gaza. A resident of Yeroham, Itai served as a platoon commander. He was a person of great integrity. He was a dedicated, responsible commander who spent quality time with his soldiers, whom he dearly loved. He led with honesty, modesty, and humility. So when we heard about this, we sent an email. And it was you, Mayor Rodering, who said, how are we going to honor Itai's memory? So that launched us into some planning. And 2 of our board members have just come back from Yeroham within the last 2 months, met with Itai's family. And what we decided we could do was to form the Itai Sif Youth Robotics Program. So we are doing 2 fundraisers to help us bring kids from the Yeroham robotics team here to Highland Park to work with Highland Park robotics students. And so the first event is this coming Thursday. So this Thursday, September 12th, a restaurant called Ami Jerusalem Street Food, which opened up recently on Green Bay Road. You can dine in or order out. If you say you are there for a part of the Sister Cities program, a percentage of whatever they make that day will go to the Itai Sif program. And then next Thursday, if you shop at Shavitz Foods here in Highland Park, also, and say you're from Sister Cities, a percentage of the proceeds of that day will also go to the Itai Sif program. So I'm here tonight, I guess, for 2 reasons. Number 1, to thank you all for your support and let you know the wonderful things that we're doing thanks to your continued efforts on our behalf, and also to encourage the community and anyone who could hear my voice to support our 2 programs to honor the memory of Itai Sif. Any questions?
And you can also contribute directly.
You can also go on our website. Thank you. You can go on the Highland Park Sister City Foundation website and make a donation. So, you know, whatever we could do to support each other, to bring Highland Park to the world, to bring the world to Highland Park, to make a difference in lives, to create opportunities, that's what we want to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We so appreciate all the work that you do, Chair Wolf, and your committee. You enrich.
I have to say, that's my husband, Rick, and he's the vice president. The way we're organized is, Highland Park Sister Cities Foundation is a 501c3. So I'm the president of the organization, but we have 3 vice presidents, each charged with one of our sister cities. Rick is the vice president in charge of the relationship with Puerto Vallarta. Lori Bernardi Wyatt is the vice president in charge of the Modena relationship. And Matt Pestine, with a big assist from Phil Lazarus, is in charge of the Yeroham relationship. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. And it really is such a neat thing to be able to not only enrich our community, but work with other communities. When I was in Israel in 2015, so right after Itai had been here working with our robotics team, I met with the mayor of Yerokam, and we FaceTimed or Skyped with the robotics team in Yerokam. It was really, really cool. So my heart breaks for our loss, and I so appreciate the way that you're remembering him. Thank you. I'd now like to invite Plan and Design Commission Chair Karen Moore to the podium to provide an update on the Plan and Design Commission.
Thank you, Mayor Rotering, and thank you, City Council. It's not off, I don't ever sit here.
Usually you're right here.
So my name is Karen Moore, and I've been on, this is my 5th year on the Plan and Design Commission. I'm currently the chair of the commission. The commission itself was formed as a merger of the Plan Commission and Design Review Commission in 2015. The Plan and Design Commission's jurisdiction and authority is established in Chapter 33.406 of the City Code. Our commission is authorized to hold public hearings, consider testimony, and make recommendations to the City Council related to land use considerations, including plan developments, special use permits, special exceptions, other variations, and amendments to the zoning code and map pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 150 of the zoning code and Chapter 151 of the subdivision code. We are also authorized to review exterior design features for non-single-family residential structures, certain sign permit applications, landscaping and screening applications, lighting plans, awnings, and fences pursuant to Chapter 176 of the City Code regarding design review. And finally, consider, develop, and recommend land use and related plans. Some brief highlights of our responsibilities and major projects that we have underway or are planned for the near future. Since the last report in March of 2024, the Commission has considered many development applications and land use policy matters, including, but not limited to, an addition and site changes to the Acura dealership, plan development amendments that will enable 2 restaurants to open, one at 555 Roger Williams Avenue and the other at 55 St. John's Avenue, a plan development amendment for the Ravinia Festival Association as part of an overall modernization of the pavilion building and its loading docks and equipment uses and theater space, a rezoning and special use permit to allow a new Park District recreation building at Westridge, and 7 design review or sign applications. The commission also considered land use policy related to establishing a domestic pet daycare land use and is considering policy matters related to storage containers and protecting residential neighborhoods through the additional regulations and changes related to berms, setbacks, and select uses within particular areas of certain zoning districts abutting residential uses. The commission continues to consider development applications and land use policy changes and makes recommendations to the City Council and will advise and consider other projects as directed by you, the City Council.
Great. Well, thank you for your dedication to thoughtful and deliberate design review and all of the complex matters that come before the PDC. Your hard work is always appreciated,
Thank you.
and we thank you.
A really nice commission, so
Great.
thank you for appointing everybody.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for all of that. Lastly, we'd like to welcome Sustainability Advisory Group Chair. Yes, round of applause. Jay Futterman, who will share an update on behalf of the group.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I'm pleased to present a report on behalf of the Sustainability Advisory Group, also known as SAG, where I serve as the chair. SAG consists of myself, 9 members, 2 student representatives, Council Member Kim Stone, and our staff liaison, Catherine Flesher, the City Sustainability Specialist. So I'll share some of our brief highlights of major projects underway and what's planned. So our work plan prioritizes residential and commercial methane gas reduction, a green business recognition program, community education and communication, monitoring waste, composting, recycling, and greenhouse gas output, water conservation, and the Highland Park Environmental Award. To this end, SAG has created working groups focused on residential methane gas reduction, green businesses, and communications to focus our efforts. A couple months ago, SAG hosted our first event of the Sustainability Speaker Series on the topic of heat pump installations. Heat pumps are a critical way to reduce residential methane gas use. At the event, attendees had the opportunity to speak with local HVAC contractors specializing in residential heat pump installation. Just last month, SAG and the city hosted and promoted, along with the Illinois Solar Education Association, a solar home tour, highlighting a home in Highland Park with solar energy and other environmentally friendly features. SAG members participated with Go Green Highland Park in the Drive Electric Earth Month Electric Vehicle Showcase during the Arbor Day festivities to educate attendees on the benefits and variety of electric vehicles. Advisors provide education through the Sustainability Sunday posts on the city's social media and connect with the community by tabling at community events. To promote the curbside composting program, advisors provided information on composting to residents and gave away countertop composting bins at Arbor Day and other city events, and promoted the annual compost giveaway. For 2025, the advisors are looking forward to expanding education on the Hefty Renew program, which is a non-recyclable plastics waste diversion program in collaboration with SWALCO, the Solid Waste Agency of Lake County. We're looking to organize a regional meeting with other municipal sustainability groups and providing the library with an induction cooktop and infrared camera for patrons to check out and use at home, as well as continuing our work to foster the ongoing support of the city's sustainability plan.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair Futterman. And thank you to all of the members of the Sustainability Advisory Group for your leadership and your efforts to advance Highland Park sustainability initiatives. And I just want to reiterate and thank these chairs for coming and all those that they work with. These are all volunteers. They all are giving of their time to do good things on behalf of our community, and we're just so appreciative of each of you. So thank you so much. Is there any business from the council? None. Okay. City Manager Newkirk, would you please provide the staff report?
We have 5 items on the omnibus agenda for consideration. Item number 2 pertains to a proposed agreement with a firm to conduct survey and focus group facilitation services as part of our work effort to establish a permanent place of remembrance. Earlier this year, the working group issued a request for proposal. We received a great response. We conducted interviews with a number of firms and then narrowed it down to a preferred firm for consideration. Based on one-on-one feedback with elected officials, we are suggesting that we move this agenda item to the next committee of the whole. We can bring the firm in to present their proposed plan to the city council, and then look for your feedback and consideration thereafter. Just for public information purposes, we are planning a significant and comprehensive public engagement process. Surveys and focus groups are planned to be conducted in both English and Spanish. We are proposing to do work with a firm that has experience using a trauma-informed approach. We were looking at a minimum of 4 focus groups with meeting with victims, the general public, and as it pertains to the victims, very important is that we meet people where they are. And so that may mean one-on-one communication, specifically with individuals whose loved ones were killed from the tragedy. Collection, analyzing, and presenting data is part of the scope, and we have presentations planned both with the working group as well as with the city council. And then the other item is item number 3. The council had approved a food and beverage establishment interior improvement and expansion grant on August 26th. After council approval, we issued, through a number of modalities, we communicated the information to our business community, and we got feedback, and we are bringing forward 2 suggested changes to the program, which are outlined in the staff report and also marked with track changes on the attachment. Very important is that property owners as well as the business part of this 50-50 matching program to support both current business, the enhancements to their place of business as well as business attraction purposes. But what we identified and learned from business owners is there are some property owners that are just not willing to make an investment into the space. And so rather than penalizing the business, which ultimately this initiative is meant to support business growth and to support the business community, we are suggesting some proposed changes which are reflected in the staff report. And then the second proposed change is the ability to use grant funds for marketing purposes and creation of assets relating specifically to the grant-funded improvements. So that may mean like window graphics, graphic design services, things of that nature. So it would have to tie specifically to the grant program. So those are both reflected in the staff report. I believe there's an interest in pulling that agenda item. We can talk further about it at that time. And that concludes our staff report.
Great, thank you very much. And would you please introduce the next item on our agenda, public?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So the next item on the agenda is business from the public. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the City Council on a topic that is within the council's purview and jurisdiction, but is not listed in another location on the agenda. If you would like to speak about a matter that is listed on the agenda, we ask that you wait until the agenda item is called, and we will give you an opportunity to speak then. If your matter is on omnibus or consent, please let us know if you'd like us to remove that matter from the consolidated list so that you may speak about it. Please be aware that business from the public is not intended to be a forum for open dialogue or engagement with members of the City Council. Rather, it is intended as an opportunity to make comments to the City Council. Please do not expect a response from anyone tonight. If appropriate, questions may be directed to me as the city manager or other city staff. All comments should be directed to the City Council. All speakers are limited to 3 minutes. We request that speakers refrain from throwing objects or using noisemakers, and that the public not applaud or make other comments after any speaker. We also ask that everyone be respectful, civil, and non-repetitive.
Thank you.
My name is Carl Lambrecht. I live in Highland Park for a number of years. I'm going to be talking about the 145th birthday of Margaret Sanger. She was born in Corning, New York on the 14th of September, 1879, a long time ago. She started an organization called Planned Parenthood in 1916. In 1920, Lenin was the first country to legalize killing babies. Euthanasia is something that she was involved with, which includes, the unborn and the old people like me. And in this mind, she basically taught Adolf Hitler what to do. Disgusting. She visited the Soviet Union in the time of Stalin. And now I'm going to switch to infanticide. Infanticide happened in Auschwitz by the Nazis. 10 men were placed into a room for 2 weeks. Only one of them was alive. They couldn't have food or drink. They were just starved to death. Now we come into the United States. We call it botched abortions, where the baby comes out alive. That's infanticide. And then they put it in a little corner and starve it to death. This is something supported by all the Democrats in the state of Illinois, not all throughout the United States, in the court. And I would like, and I asked this approximately 4 years ago, that an ordinance be made for Highland Park to be a sanctuary city for the unborn. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Clara Stuparts. Thank you for letting me speak. I am just here again to say no to the proposal for sidewalks on University Knoll Trail. Climate warming pollution is the cutting down of trees and paving of the grass. CO2 is managed best by big trees, which is what we have on that street. The TAG Group engineering study said that their sidewalk proposal would not impact water runoff, and that's false, because we have studies from the North Shore Stormwater Management that shows over and over again that this area not only floods, it will flood again, and we do need to pay attention to what we're doing on this street. It's a hill, it's not going to change, and we're very close to the Skokie River, which also needs to be better managed, not just when we flood, but routinely. I would rather see that we pay attention to this and pay less taxes to make a project that not only will ruin this beautiful street, but will also increase water runoff. The stormwater sewer pipes were placed in the 1920s. They can't handle these hard, fast waters. I would like to see more attention paid to these kinds of things rather than worrying about bicycles that do go through our neighborhood all the time. If calming the road is an issue, we could put stop signs or do something much more eco-friendly. And the truth is, you know, the kids will be driven to school. It's just easier and safer for everyone. I did it. My 4, when the weather was great, they walked, and when it wasn't, we drove, and it's just normal stuff. So I just want everybody to get along in the neighborhood and enjoy the trees.
Thank you. Next speaker. Nope, we're not applauding. We're not applauding. Thank you.
Levi Kane. Welcome back, everyone. I think we're all happy to see that the festival and the brewery have finally reached an agreement. But personally, as a resident of Highland Park, it just still doesn't sit quite right with me. And since the festival couldn't just let good enough be, then neither can I. They called down the thunder, and now it's time for them to ride the lightning. You see, you don't have to give away our money in order to entice businesses to come to Highland Park. You just have to do what's the right thing to do and be willing to admit that what we've been doing isn't working. And then you learn from that and you grow from that. So Nancy and Andres have a conflict of interest, so earmuffs, right? But the rest of you have the opportunity to show up like the leaders that you are. You have the chance to show all the businesses that are here, all the businesses from the outside looking in, and everyone on the sidelines watching to see what's going to happen next. You all have the opportunity to show them that Highland Park has their backs. And you can do this by implementing all, if not just at least part of, what I call the Equitable Revenue Enhancement Plan. Any entities operating south of Roger Williams Ave and east of Green Bay Road who are grossing $15 million or more in annual revenue effective immediately would be subject to the following 4 sections. Number 1, a sales tax of 2.1% that is allocated specifically for our schools. Number 2, a carbon emissions tax following the model of the progressive country of Sweden at $130 per metric ton. Number 3, a 1% naming rights tax if the entity benefits from using the city's name or related designations. And number 4, a 10% amusement tax modeled after the policies of neighboring Cook County. Embedded within this amusement tax will be an additional lump sum to account for any property tax revenue lost by the city due to exemptions such as, but not limited to, a nonprofit status. Currently, the festival has an agreement with the city, which they donate 5% of their revenue to us, but if you look at the details, it kind of just gets funneled right back to them, so not really helping us at all. So with this amendment to our tax code, using the festival as only an example, the money received for them would immediately double. Upon the expiration of that agreement they currently have with the city, that number would double again, equating to nearly 5%, equating to actually over 5% of the city's entire annual budget. So if you actually do care about the city, like you say that you do, you will fight for the small businesses. You'll fight for the small businesses that are already here. You'll put your creativity to good use, and you'll show us all how smart you really are. Show us that you mean business, and show us that you care. And Gita, yes, we've talked. No use in trying to amend the agreement that we already have. I think it's safe to say that the festival's agreement amendment privileges have officially been revoked. So for details, follow the link in the description below at amendhp.com/plan. Now smash that like button, hit subscribe. See you later.
Thank you. Next speaker.
You're welcome.
Good evening. When I speak to council about sidewalks, I always feel frustrated.
Please state your
mostly-
name for the record.
Sorry, Mark
Thank you.
Portman. It's a pleasure to be back and talking with you folks.
Good to
When
see
I
you.
speak to city council about sidewalks, I always feel frustrated, mostly because this city, our city, struggles with so many important issues. You should focus to fix those problems rather than wasting time on low or no priority sidewalks. With that said, regrettably, it's been almost 7 years since the city first notified our neighborhood that the city is considering a proposal to install sidewalks on our streets. That letter was dated December 4th, 2017. Ultimately, a final sidewalk proposal was overwhelmingly rejected by a substantial majority of affected property owners in January 2020. Following that defeat, the city took steps to amend its guidelines. It approved a complete streets policy designed to circumvent the will of the people on University and Old Trail by creating a carve-out for sidewalks identified in Bike Walk 2030, a policy which was artfully rebranded as Move HP to avoid a direct connection to the bike lobby. This year, our neighborhood celebrates 100 years since its creation. Throughout our history, we've lived without any sidewalks on the original 12 streets, except for one sidewalk built in the 1950s on the main north-south roads of Summit and Kren when the new schools, Wayne Thomas and Northwoods, were built. Over 300+ property owners on these remaining 10 streets have managed without a sidewalk very well, thank you, for these past 100 years. No city council in history has ever considered taking on such a destructive policy except this city council. This is not an abstract matter. It is a real life matter which will impact every property owner on these two streets. These are not your streets, these are our streets, and most of us fear the real life devastation facing our neighborhood if you attempt to retrofit sidewalks onto our streets. The sidewalk lobby is now desperately seeking a solution to the tree problem which it created. They are preparing a fourth alternative to be presented at the September 25th TAG meeting. However, it doesn't matter how many alternatives they deliver if the end result is the destruction of our vital tree canopy, and we will not bargain on this matter. Unless the city is willing to, and it can, consider special methods and materials which will significantly increase the project cost, no level of engineering will eliminate the inevitable destruction of trees during and after sidewalk construction. And I'll remind you, this is how our city staff responded to the initial proposal less than 3 months ago. These are their words, not mine. Based upon the findings of the sidewalk assessment study, speed study, and the public feedback obtained, the staff has reservations about advancing construction of a sidewalk on either side of University Avenue. While there are certainly merits to adding an acceptable sidewalk to the street, it comes with significant impacts to the mature trees that line the city right away and define the neighborhood, unquote. Upon receiving that recommendation in June 2024, City Council should have stamped this proposal dead on arrival.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now it's your turn to end this miserable chapter in our history. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Marla Portman. I'm speaking about the proposed installation of a sidewalk on University Avenue and Old Trail. There have been some residents claiming that these streets are dangerous and an accident waiting to happen. I totally disagree, although I feel sad that they feel that way. While there are times when the street is congested due to landscaper, repair, delivery, and other vehicles, most of the time the street is empty. It's like most other streets. If our street is scary, then every street's scary. Each of us is responsible for our own safety, no matter where we walk, bike, or drive. We have to be careful. Adding a sidewalk will not guarantee safety. If our street was so dangerous, then we wouldn't see others in our neighborhood who don't live on our street walking down our street. They walk on our street because of the beauty and shade provided by our tree canopy. Even the most vocal Transportation Advisory Group member, a proponent of sidewalks, who claims our street is unsafe, must not think it's too dangerous, or he would not choose to walk down our street with earbuds when in fact he lives closer to the main street which has a sidewalk. He walks down University quite often. If there was a problem with safety, our street wouldn't be avoided. Highland Park Policeman Soldano spoke eloquently at the last TAG meeting about the traffic studies and about people being responsible for their own safety. 2 traffic studies have shown that our street is comparable to most other streets in Highland Park. For those who are fearful, there is a short distance to Summit and Cren where there are sidewalks. This is also the dedicated bike path in the Highlands. There's also a short walk on the north end of University to Old Elm, which has a sidewalk. There are currently options for those who are fearful of walking down our street. Putting in a sidewalk is an expense we can't afford. It will mean taking out many wonderful old trees and seriously endangering other trees when digging into their root systems. This is factual, and the Bartlett Arbor's report concurs. This proposal contradicts what our city is supposed to be advocating for, namely the environment. Moving forward with this plan will have a devastating impact on our environment, its ecosystem, and the neighborhood. And a picture's worth 1,000 words. This is before and after. 2 examples of what our street will look like before and after with sidewalks put in. And I have copies of this to show you as well. And this doesn't even take into account the other trees that are going to be affected when the root systems are dug in. I hope you'll reconsider and not do this. It's not a good thing for the city. This is a copy for every one of you of the pictures.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other speakers? Any other members of the public who wish to be heard?
Well, I hate to be repetitive. Pamela Weiner, 3172 University Avenue. My concerns are numerous about this sidewalk proposal, but as homeowners, we must pay attention to how the proposal affects our homes. What are the consequences? I'm worried about the flooding. We already have flooding in our area. I mean, we've had excessive rains in the past 2 or 3 years that we've ever had. 5 inches of rain. We usually just have rain all day, but now it comes quickly, and my yard is underwater. I've got water in my house. We have very mature trees on our street and at our lot. So, you've got one oak can absorb 100 gallons of water a day. That's 40,000 gallons of water a year, and that's only one tree. You take down all these trees, and I don't care if you're saying there's not going to be flooding, we've got flooding, and that is a big concern just for my home. Then again, I'm a real estate agent in addition to the many things I do, and you have on your site, those mature trees add 15% value to our homes. And I know that a couple of the council members have come to walk our street, and if you haven't been there, I think it's a good idea before you vote or even consider anything on this, that you come down our street and see the arch of trees and see how pretty it is.
I think almost all of us have been on University, so thank you.
Recently, I don't know, because, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
My sister had come to our house, and she lives in Charlotte, but she lives in a development, and she grew up here. And it was interesting because we're in the car, and we're driving down, and she goes, "Do you know how lucky you are?" And I said, what do you, I wasn't thinking about the trees at the time. And she said, "You have an arch of trees." She said, "We live in a new development. We'll never have trees like this. We're not young, so there's not that many more years left." So anyway, I just want us to be thoughtful to the repercussions of what this plan does. Thank you.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
taking the time.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to be heard? Okay.
Thank you. My name is David Kenneth, resident of Highland Park, resident of University Avenue, and both my wife and I are also no on the proposition to put sidewalks on University Avenue. For all the reasons mentioned here tonight, and as well as others, just taking a look at the proposal to walk Highland Park, to ride Highland Park, to move HP, and across all of it, I take the common sense approach. This proposal to put sidewalks in on University Avenue. If you take a walk and just watch people walk on University Avenue. You're talking maybe 20 to 30 people a day, the same individuals, the same residents, a lot of them on University Avenue, a lot of them are not on University Avenue. All of the other east-west streets, there's no sidewalks. So they're intentionally walking on University Avenue, they're meandering over to the lakefront to walk. It's great. It's safe. It's not an issue of safety. But you remove, just from College North, every tree on the east side will be removed. The proposal, and Ron was kind enough to respond to some of my answers in a very generic fashion, but the latest proposal that says only 28 trees would be removed is incorrect. It's completely incorrect. And so even in proposal 4, if they put the sidewalk right up against the curb, the snow plows come by. And guess what? All that snow goes back on the sidewalk. The homeowners have to clean it off time and time again. But more importantly, how many people, when you lose 50 to 60 trees just on one side of the road, when the wind, the snow, the rain, it just keeps coming off the road. And as the flooding keeps coming about, you know, there's not a need. There has not been a shown a need. More importantly, some of the other answers I get, a safety issue. Then take other action, take enforcement of the speed. Put speed bumps on there. I got the response of speed bumps, well, they don't work because of the snow plows. They don't work because of other reasons. Those are excuses. I live in another community with my wife. We have a summer home. We had the exact same issue of walkers, pedestrians, speed, excessive speed by cars. We worked with the city. We put speed bumps in there that are snowplow compliant, that work with snowplows. Signs work, enforcement work. Other alternatives do work if people are really concerned about safety. But the millions and millions of dollars that are being spent across Highland Park for these sidewalks, for 20 to 30 people in a given area of 1 mile that just going back and forth, I think is significantly excessive. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public wishing to be heard?
Hello, my name is Tom Hiller, and I live at 818 Hill Street. We expressed our opposition to a sidewalk on University and Old Trail. The geometry of the streets and the subdivision were created a century ago in 1924. This includes lot sizes, street width, distance of houses to the street, and etc. Trees on the parkway have been here for decades, some beyond 150 years. Summit south of Hill and Cren north of Hill were designed for a sidewalk. The street is in a straight line, as are the houses. The distance from the curb to the sidewalk is 12 feet, with a row of trees down the middle of the parkway. The street is wide. In contrast, the distance from the street to the houses on University and Old Trail varies. The street is narrow and curvy. Along with elevation changes and trees, this serves to provide a curvy, woodsy-like feel. Due to the existing geometry, the proposed sidewalk on University and Old Trail will be much closer to the curb than a sidewalk on Summit and Cren. The resulting lack of trees on the east side of University will be in stark comparison to other streets in the same subdivision. Cren and Summit have 2 stop signs. Dado has 1 stop sign. University and Old Trail have the same geometry as Dado and Summit north of Hill, yet have 0 stop signs. The symmetry of the geometry is as obvious as the asymmetry in the number of stop signs. There is no reason to single out a street for a sidewalk that does not have a geometry for a sidewalk, notwithstanding the subdivision was designed a century ago and the adjoining streets in the same subdivision have stop signs. A low-cost way forward is to install 1 or even better 2 stop signs along Old Trail and University. We can then observe the traffic flow and velocity in comparison to Dado and Summit north of Hill. We have been here for a little over 2 years. The entire area around for miles except for a block from grade school, is devoid of sidewalk. It is a major feature of the overall area. We seek to preserve that.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to be heard? If not, we'll continue. Oops, hello, how are you?
My name is Mike Jowell. I live at 3306 University Avenue. I'm going to read a letter for two of my neighbors who couldn't be here. And as longtime residents of Highland Park, and specifically as residents of University Avenue, we want to be very clear that we, Marilyn Hirsch and Gary Gordon, are adamantly opposed to placing a sidewalk on either side of University Avenue. First, we do not understand the problem the city is trying to solve. There does not seem to be a safety issue. There is no safety issue with bikes, pedestrians on University Avenue, nor does speeding seem to be an issue that is different than elsewhere in Highland Park. Certainly better options exist to speeding than a sidewalk. Second, the neighborhood has grown over the years to have a large number of mature and beautiful trees that you've heard people speak about here tonight. They contribute an ambiance to the Highlands. Adding a sidewalk on either side, according to expert input, will damage and likely kill these mature and difficult assets. 3, anyone who purchased a house along University Avenue was certainly aware of the lack of sidewalks and thus was fully informed regarding the nature of the neighborhood. 4th, usually within 1 or 2 blocks, one can assess streets with sidewalks. 5th, there's not a unanimous opinion on this issue among those who live on University Avenue and are most directly impacted. Many residents do not support the addition of sidewalks, and picking one side of the street or the other will simply be divisive and cause unnecessary hard feeling, and it solves no problem. 6th, we believe there are better uses for city funding. City funding, which includes our taxes. Given more pressing long-term problems the city needs to address. And I've sat here for many city council meetings, and this is all the problems, and I too wonder, why do you want to spend money on University Avenue? 7th, and last, please note that the staff report indicated that the staff have reservations about going ahead with the sidewalk construction on University Avenue. As we were unable to be here at this meeting tonight in person, we are providing this note. I'm sorry, you already have this part. We asked the city and the TAG committee to weigh all the input carefully, do the right thing, and reject this proposal, please.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public who wish to be heard? Okay, thank you very much, all of you, for coming out and for continuing to share your concern and your point of view and your perspective on the sidewalk question on University. Gita, I think, were you going to make some comments about what's happening? And
I'm happy to, Mayor. Yes, very briefly, and again, just echo everyone's appreciation for coming out this evening. So we do have a status update on the city's website. So if you haven't seen it, and if you want to provide me your email address, make sure that you get it. This consideration is planned to be represented again to the Transportation Advisory Group on September 25th. That's their next meeting. It is a public meeting. This will be the second time we're going to tag. There was a robust discussion at the first meeting. We just want to make sure that they have thoroughly reviewed everything, and if they have any comments, they're all going to be documented. And then that report, any recommendations will be coming to the City Council then for formal consideration. So that's the immediate next steps, Mayor. We do have a project, an email list of individuals interested in this initiative. So if anyone is not added to that email list and would like to be added, please make sure that someone on staff gets your email address. We'll make sure you're added.
So people who have told the Transportation Advisory Group that they want to be notified about this project, if you aren't getting those emails, please let us know, and we'll be sure to add your name so that you'll have notice of when that meeting is on the 25th.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you all again for coming out this evening. Our next item on our agenda, we have items 1, 3, 4, and 5 grouped together for omnibus consideration.
I'd like to pull 3.
You'd like to pull 3, okay?
And 2 is being continued.
2 is being continued to the committee of the whole at our next meeting, so I'm seeking a motion to approve items 1, 4, and 5.
So moved. Second.
Any comments or questions on items 1, 4, or 5? Any from the public? Hearing none, will the clerk call the vote, please?
Councilmember Brockman. Aye. Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Littlewer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 6 ayes, no nays. Items 1, 4, and 5 have been approved. Item 2, as I mentioned, will be on our next committee of the whole for a follow-up conversation. Item 3 is a resolution adopting amendments to the Food and Beverage Establishment Interior Improvement Grant Program. I think both of you wanted to pull this, yes? No,
I just wanted to make a statement, but go ahead. No, you pulled it.
toss a coin, somebody go.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm fully in favor of the portion dealing with modifying this so that we can have additional usage, whether it's media or whatever it is, but it's not advertising to supplement the, this project. I am not in favor of put the 50% that the property owners would not be required to put in. It's been the policy of this council, and we went over it several times before we looked at the incentives, to say that unless we have buy-in from the property owners, we are not going to be improving the property owners' buildings. BDAG and a lot of other groups put some wonderful recommendations for us to help with incentives at a 50% rate. And a lot of those types of things that we would be fixing are the property owners' buildings. And I think that changing this at this stage, and we are not a full council here tonight, which I think is regrettable for this particular instance.
Question, okay.
But I'm not in favor of changing that. We passed it in a certain way. I understand where the businesses are coming from. I think they're completely right. But we are not, it has not been our policy in the past to improve upon the buildings of the property owners. It's to help the businesses. And if there are other things that we can help the businesses with, I'm completely in favor of it. That's what the incentives were set out to do. And I do not like this recommendation, and we'll be voting against that portion of it. Because it's a two-part amendment.
Okay.
Okay, I've got something similar to what Councilman Littlewer just said, Councilmember Littlewer. The city's incentive program for businesses currently requires financial participation by the property owner. And if we're using public funds to improve a privately owned property, I believe the property owner should contribute. So I will be voting against this, the removal of this requirement. And I'll be voting against the whole thing for number 3.
Okay, any other comments? Councilmember Tapia?
Yeah, I'm in support of the amendment because the businesses have asked for it. They have been eager for the incentive. There are several businesses who have made plans on the basis of this incentive being available to them. They are willing to move their businesses forward. They would ideally like the property owners to contribute. The property owners have the option to contribute. I would like the property owners to contribute, but given sort of being between a rock and a hard place, to stop this now when there's momentum on the part of giving business incentives and businesses making plans along those lines, they're either have already signed leases or about to, I think it would just stop in the tracks some of the business growth that some of these businesses are counting on doing because of the incentive plan that they have been in support of. So because of that, I will be voting in favor of it.
I'm sorry, what? Let's let everybody else comment first. Councilmember Brookman. Thank you, Councilmember Tapia.
I also will be voting in favor of this. I agree with what Councilmember Tapia said. This is what the business owners want and have made noted, and I think that's what we should do, just so they can move forward and do these improvements as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm voting in favor of it as well, but I very much hear the concern about not requiring, the property owner to invest as well. It can come off as, they're getting a gift, they're getting it for free. But I understand the concerns of the businesses, and I am supporting this. I did want to make mention, I may be alone in this, maybe not, but there's a 10-year, the business has to wait 10 years to reapply, and I'm hoping that maybe we can consider something a little less than 10 years. I think that, somewhere between 5 and 10 years to be able to reapply, because we hope that this incentive will lead to more business, more visitors, and if they wanted, we want them to be successful with this, and I could see somewhere between 5 and 10 years being a reasonable length of time to be able to be reconsidered for another grant. But that's where I am. Thank you.
City Manager, do you want to respond to that, or?
We could amend it. It is listed as 10 years, and if the council wishes to change it, can certainly do so with the motion.
It's part of our existing program. You have an ordinance on your, or a resolution on your agenda to amend the existing program. I am concerned, I'm concerned that that's not been properly noticed.
Exactly.
It's on the agenda.
But you have, we have in the past amended programs when you have part of it on the agenda. That it's less of a legal issue than it is a policy or political issue for you all.
Can I?
Well, actually, I have a question. So I'm going to ask that maybe we bring this also to the committee of the whole at our next meeting, figure out where the differences lie, maybe come up with something a little bit more clear and elegant, so that we're not sort of debating on the dais, this piece, this piece, this piece. Figuring out how to call the action is, I think, going to be a little difficult. And I'd like us to have the opportunity to sort of have a further discussion about the issues that people are concerned about.
I'd like to say something to that, Mayor.
Sure.
With all due respect, we've really tried to get this incentive program. I don't like the fact that it's somewhat sloppy to do it this way, but first of all, the one thing was not formally on the agenda. So it's really about two items.
I wasn't expecting it to be changed
Great.
with this
Okay,
vote.
so that
No.
takes care of one issue.
Yeah.
Secondly, with all due respect to my colleagues, the only thing that the businesses have relied on is the fact that we passed this program. We passed it in a certain format. They did not rely on something that we had not amended this to, because we passed it saying that the property owners had to contribute. So it's not like they were relying on that now. However, if we put this off to another meeting, then they do not move forward, because there is still some question there. So I would actually, if it's possible, even at the risk of losing a vote, I'd like to still see this move forward tonight. And if you find it easier, then I'm happy to keep the motion as it is right now and just vote no on both.
Okay.
If that's the way it would rather be. I would prefer not to do that, because I'd like to give an additional incentive. But I feel that with, again, this council, and I've only been on for 3 years, but in all 3 years and throughout, we have always said we will not improve without the property owners having some teeth in the game. And we've been very consistent. And we've tried very creatively to assist the businesses without going away from that policy. And this amendment completely turns that policy on its head.
Then why not
Because
what the
we-
mayor is suggesting and
Because I do think businesses have relied on this and want to get moving and do want to make progress on it. And so I think it's important to take care of it. That's my only point.
Thank you. Councilmember Tapia and then Councilmember Stone.
Yeah, I think we just got to move forward and make the vote. I mean, we're dragging the businesses. We've been talking about this since last year and then moving into activation since January, February, March. And we keep, putting it off for different reasons. Let's get BDAG, let's get the businesses, so all appropriate to get the input. So now we have the input. Now we have a point of view. I think we should vote on it and get on with it.
Okay, Councilmember Stone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing both perspectives here. The businesses have relied on it, but we have a program in place. The program has begun. They can rely on the program as it currently exists if we want to clean this up and have a conversation about it and vote on it at a future meeting. I don't think that's a problem. In terms of the property owner's participation, I agree with Councilmember Littwer that we have been very clear that we want the property owners to participate. And if that means that there's a negotiation between the business owner and the property owner so that the business owner maybe pays a little bit more and takes it out, puts it into the rent or something like that so that the property owner can put it in as well, that there should be some creative way for them to work together to make that happen. Even if the property owner doesn't want to participate, they should be able to work with the business owner to change some percentages of some, income that they get from the business or something like that in order to make that work. So I don't see this as being a big deal to have the property owner participating.
And so I think it's important for anybody who hasn't been reading and following all of this, that we are going to have an affirmative statement from any non-participating property owners that they are refusing to participate and refusing to help the business, which is a current lessee within their property. So it's not like it's just sort of over here and we don't have accountability by the property owners. I guess with that, I will call the question and people can vote as they wish. This is item 3 again, seeking a motion on a resolution adopting amendments to the Food and Beverage Establishment Interior Improvement Grant Program.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further comments or questions? Do you look like you want to say
No,
something?
I just want, this is both the resolution as drafted, as in the package with both
Resolution
parts.
is drafted.
I
You
do have
bet.
one quick question.
Sure.
Mayor, actually, I do think Councilmember Stone is correct. There is something on the books right now. So in actuality, there is something on the books. They can move forward, and if we put this off in terms of the amendments, it doesn't affect anything. I
Thank
think
you.
you're right.
But we
and
do
I-
have a motion and we do have a second. So we will take action and see where things land. Thanks. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Brockman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross.
aye.
Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Littwer.
No.
Councilmember Stone.
No.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 4 ayes, 2 nays. Item 3 is approved. Thank you. With that, I am seeking a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight.